Issue 140. We start out with the revelation that Knuckles' baby brother has the worst name in the history of ever, Kneecapion Mace. Apparently his nickname is Kneecaps, but still, there's a reason that he went by Mace in 25 Years Later special. Knuckles' response, "That's gotta be the worst name I've ever heard for a kid," as well as everyone laughing, would have been much better if they were responding to his actual name, which was 10 times stupider. At least Kneecaps kinda goes off the name your character after a body part theme with Knuckles. Just because he's an echidna and thus part of a Sonic series distinctive species, doesn't justify him having a stupid name for the sake of trying to sound special. What's wrong with Bob? Why does he have to have the name of someone randomly smashing on a keyboard? This story hasn't exactly begun well. Who the hell's getting all angry asking if something's funny? I have no idea because the art isn't making it remotely clear who he is and why he's not screaming about being on fire. So after that brain deadness that could have easily been cut out of the story, it's revealed that the heroes were pitched some tents so they'd have a place to stay for the night. Knuckles feels depressed about it and wants to be alone because the tents are only there since the echidnas admire him to a creepy extent. I feel sorry for Sonic here, looking all depressed about how Sally acted differently after he came back to the planet. In front of a bunch of fire, Knuckles tells, something to get out of his way because he's got business inside the palace. The Dark Legion goon approves him to come in for some reason, and as I wonder what's the purpose of Dr. Finite having a pink visible aura around him, he and Landa let Knuckles see the Master Emerald to mope, even though Knuckles knows it drains his energy now. Then it's finally explained to me why he's wearing these new things on his gloves and stuff. He's outfitted with hammer gloves and the air necklace from SA2 that Rotor actually invented. That's a nice touch. My question is, why the hell is Knuckles saying that his saving the fucking world from the Zorda is regrettable because of his stupid ego? That's not ego, that's being a hero. How insecure is he that he's being like this instead of hating Aurora for what she did? Although I'd rather he be insecure and have actual depth to his character than be unlikably arrogant like in most of the games. Then after some lightning seems to hit Knuckles or something, I'm not really sure, what resembles an ant with the letter A on his hat acts like an obviously evil cartoon villain saying that everything's going just as he predicted. If this is Archimedes, which is not, how brainwashed was he, how drunk were the writers for forgetting the character this badly? Meanwhile, a dingo who somehow agreed to have his face roboticized vertically to look nightmarish, tells Eggman that the heroes have attacked one of the echidna prison camps. Oh okay, Eggman out, so Eggman's calling himself that now. Adam offers to dispatch Eggpawns to Angel Island, but Eggman says that's unnecessary, shows racism against dingoes, and then complains about how he's running out of time. Adam says that he'll go to Angel Island, is reminded that Sonic dropped him in the water when I thought that was M, and is told that Eggman already got someone else who's suited to the task perfectly. He then sends a message saying that there's a task that'll get someone out of a prison pod, but a control color on him would make sure he'd comply. Is he talking to Locke? This should be interesting. Leanda then tells the heroes in the Hidden Palace Zone that she's received word from her double agent in the Dingo Army, informing them where Locke is being held prisoner. After Knuckles' mother hugs him affectionately, Saffron shows a complete 180 on what little characters she used to have by suddenly being fine with being told to stay behind instead of fight by Charmy, when the only character she showed before this point was complaining about being told to attack the weaker target. I guess that change to blonde hair also included a change in brain. Remington offers to help Knuckles in battle, but is instead told to guard the Master Emerald. Sonic runs to the Dingo City while everyone else rides behind him in Dark Legion UFOs. Wow, they really tried as hard as they could to make the Dingo City look as evil as possible. How would any actual person support this logically? It even has a sign saying blatantly slave pits. A terrified dingo knocks on the door of a death chamber. Apparently it's Harry. Makes sense since he's the one sympathetic dingo, but I would have liked to see more than just one. And he stammers to General Cage that he brought him his nutrient supplements in between his tormenting Locke. Cage at first compliments the meal's taste, and then we see that the nutrient supplements look like a normal breakfast. So why not just call it a breakfast instead of making me imagine futuristic food pills? He then throttles Harry because he had given him his breakfast instead, as if that should really matter because it's still food, and taunts him about being so nervous all the time with electricity sparking all around him for intimidation. He's then distracted into releasing Harry by a transmission from Eggman, and Eggman tells him to just kill off Locke because he's not doing what he wants anyways. Then the alarms go off with red lights happening everywhere. Harry is all startled at seeing Sonic there, even though you'd think he would be that double agent, and the heroes start a whole fight with the dingoes. Sonic defeats General Cage by confusing him with his super speed, making him run into something, threatens Harry, calling him dog breath like a racist, and then Locke awkwardly says, Sonic? That's Harry you're about to pummel. He's our double agent. That makes more sense. So he was scared because he figured Sonic didn't know who he was and was afraid he'd hurt him. For good reason. Locke is freed since Harry gives Knuckles the keys to the shackles, and Locke acts like he'll be fine, and says that Knuckles instead is his sight for the sore eyes. I really like that they actually made an effort to make Locke different from Knuckles, with the old man eyebrows, because the stress from being tormented like that made him age more. So go figure, his dad looks better and his mom looks atrocious. Then of course it's revealed that Cage isn't knocked out and is threatening Sonic, but immediately gets curb stomped by Sonic in one hit because of course he was. He's a Mobian, not a robot. Then Eggman brags on the transmission to Sonic that he wouldn't rely on Locke's confession as his sole means of learning where the Master Emerald would be, and he's already dispatched one of his agents to find the Master Emerald for him, the Hunter. It does make sense that he'd end up released because Eggman took over the island. See, this is why they should have just executed him instead of keeping him in a prison. Now we've got a guy with a dangerous looking Chaos Energy tipped spear on our hands. I like his clothes though. They look cool aside from the Eggman logo. In the next story, Knuckles 25 years later steps out to the backyard to find King Sonic there. Knuckles is here because this is his usual walk before going to sleep, while Sonic says that he couldn't sleep. They go for a walk in the woods while the women are hoping that they'll be able to work things out. After some panels are wasted as they go over the same argument they did last time, Sonic talks about how earlier, Eggman stole the Chaos Emerald. Not sure why he's calling the Master Emerald that, I guess that's more proof that this is in a different dimension. And somehow I'm expected to believe that Eggman doing that made Knuckles become a living Chaos Emerald again, because Angel Island would have been destroyed otherwise. So now we're getting into what that thing was between Sonic and Knuckles that made them reluctant to see each other again. Sonic reminds Knuckles that he didn't just save the island to take down Eggman finally, but he also decided to remake Mobius as he saw fit, causing Sonic to inexplicably blame him for the coming apocalypse. That would have made a lot more sense damaging the planet's core than Sonic's zone hopping. But yeah, apparently it was Knuckles who ended up destroying Eggman once and for all. I'd say this would kind of be a creator's pet moment for Knuckles with Penders, him defeating him, robbing the victory from Sonic, the main character of the franchise. But honestly, when you think about it, it makes a lot more sense that someone as violent and short-tempered as Knuckles would actually finish the job and kill off Eggman once and for all, while Sonic does nothing but delay Eggman's defeat by not killing him to avoid feeling bad. In fact, we literally saw Knuckles consider killing Eggman when he saw him lying on the ground unconscious in the SA1 adaptation. That combined with his protectiveness over the Emerald and the island, and if anyone should have ended up finally killing Eggman, it would be Knuckles. Still feels wrong having him do it, not the main character of the franchise who always dedicated his life to fighting Eggman though. Also, while remaking the universe is a very classic stereotypical villain thing to do, and it seems John would lie to Knuckles to think he's justified in it, I can easily understand why anyone would do it given the chance, because everyone has their own opinions of how to make the world better and thinks they could improve it if they were in the position to do so. And we saw that side Knuckles wanting to make things better with his power when he was green and time traveling to prevent the Dark Legion from being formed. Then Knuckles says that if anyone acted stupid at the time it was Sonic, because after deciding Knuckles was a threat, he attempted to use a gadget he didn't understand on him, that he somehow got, I guess from Albion, complained that somehow the nullifier went off prematurely, and apparently while Knuckles became red again after being golden instead of green, Sonic had cost him his eye. Sonic naturally remarks that the reason he doesn't feel guilty is because the doctors were able to replace that eyepiece with a real eye anytime Knuckles wanted. Knuckles says his cyborg eye is a personal choice after the fact. Sonic then comes to the conclusion somehow that because his apocalypse is Knuckles' fault, he should be able to fix this too. By going green again? There's no Eggman left to provoke him. Which reminds me, how is it peaceful here instead of getting another Robo-Robotnik situation where another Robotnik comes here from another dimension? Like how Robotnik traveled to the Anti-Angel Island to siphon its emeralds because nobody was suspecting him there. With all the different Robotniks in the universe, not to mention Ixises and Mammoth Moguls and stuff, how could there possibly be peace in one universe for long when these villains would be able to dimension travel? Anyways, Knuckles lampshades that Sonic is caring more about assigning the blame than finding a solution, even though it's not his fault he's not the smart solution-finding type. Sonic admits, no, this is a tougher nut than either of us can crack on our own. So, any ideas? This causes Knuckles to say that he's not the hedgehog he always knew, and asks what happened to him. Sonic then says he wishes he knew, giving a cop-out instead of actually telling us the answer. This reminds me of how Alicia insulted Scourge something like, "Whatever happened to the hedgehog that threw my dad into the zone of silence?" After Scourge said he didn't have any ideas on how to breach a force field. Just because Sonic doesn't have any ideas when he's not the ideas guy, I mean, why should that matter so much? The first story was by Carl Bullers, and while it still has Knuckles' mom look cringeworthy, unrecognizable, and act like a total ditz, which I hated, the story in general was fine, with the heroes finally storming the Dingo City to rescue Locke because Harry, their double agent because of course he was, told the Dark Legion and heroes where Locke is being held. I'm glad General Cage was humiliated by Sonic so pathetically easily, because he deserved it for going to Eggman's side and snapping at Harry so cruelly. Charmy's future wife does a complete 180 in personality, being perfectly fine with staying put doing nothing to help in the action, when she used to be the complete opposite. Was the whole no survivor things with her country that traumatizing to her that she became meek and timid? Actually, that would make sense. I guess if I have to point out a problem with the story other than the art with Knuckles' mom, it'd be that panel where Knuckles is apparently hit with lightning with Master Emerald and an Ant Mobian, who maybe is Archimedes, acts like a stereotypical villain all of a sudden. That was just confusing and really annoying. I had no idea what was happening. If you're going to make a good guy look Archimedes evil, or at least that's what I assume because of the A on the hat, at least give it a lot of justification first, although it would explain why he mysteriously disappeared instead of continuing to be Knuckles' friend when he could teleport to him literally whenever he wants. And the second story, by Ken Penders, intriguingly reveals how Eggman was finally defeated. Knuckles became a living Chaos Emerald again somehow, just because the island was threatened with destruction, and finally finished him off. Makes more sense since no other hero except for Shadow would have the guts to kill Eggman. And then Sonic stopped him from trying to reshape Mobius with his power, with the device and brought him back to normal, but somehow cost him his eye going off prematurely. Cool story, and it explains why Knuckles and Sonic are sore with each other, but wait a minute! Didn't the In Your Face special introducing Nicole explain that Nicole died in the war against Eggman that finally took him down? There's no war here. This proves that the 25 years later arc, whether the writer intended or not, must have taken place in a separate dimension from the Prime one, because it directly contradicts what Panders himself wrote about how Eggman was finally defeated. Here, there was no big war, and Nicole isn't even mentioned to be destroyed in it. Although Nicole doesn't even show up in this at all, nor does Bunny, or Antoine, or Amy, or Fiona. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and assume it's because the story takes place on Angel Island. Just because they're not shown here doesn't mean they're dead. Amy wasn't in the future in the In Your Face special after all. So yeah, intriguing concepts that kept me invested the whole way through. But a series continuity error makes this separate dimension story beyond a shadow of a doubt, which kind of defeats the purpose of making it a 25 years later arc. Although I can easily imagine that in the actual feature of the Prime Dimension, it would be pretty similar to this, just with a couple details different, like Sonic not abandoning Tails like he did.